All right, welcome back to the Detroit Lions Fan Forum podcast. This is probably episode 6, maybe.
Yeah, I think 6.
We're gonna talk about.
Yeah, 6.
We got
Sure.
quite a bit to talk about, and we're gonna try to pack it in here a little bit. We got the Monday night primetime win against Seattle, which was super impressive, fun to watch. We had some bye week happenings, and then we just finished watching. What was it? 47-9 against
9.
Dallas.
Yeah, 47-9 against Dallas. It was I guess our emotions aren't really screaming 47-9 because we should probably talk about the inevitable.
Lots of highs, lots of lows, lot to celebrate, lot to worry about. I'm sure you're referring to.
Yeah, the leg injury for Hutch. He goes right down on an excellent play where he's bringing Dak Prescott down, and I haven't had time to really rewatch it, and I don't think they're putting a lot of footage out on it, but it just kind of sounds like he's so goddamn strong as he's going down and holding on, something snaps. It doesn't sound like he's going to be back. I don't know. Everyone keeps acting pretty mute about it right now that we'll see when he comes back, but anything that breaks, I have a hard time seeing you come back. So this season, he'll obviously come back, but tibula right now, I think it is. That's what I got.
That's what I've been hearing, and sometimes they say no news is good news, but I think they're going to keep this kind of quiet until they know the extent of it, right?
Yeah, just look at what it did, though. He comes. The energy's crazy. I know, at least in my house, up until that moment that injury happens. Excellent game. Holy shit,
Right.
we can talk about the highs, right? But we'll talk about the lows right now. They got two options at that point. Does that define us? Does that make us give up for the season? Does that open some type of exposed weakness, right? Nope. They're tackling with more of a purpose, and I didn't think that was possible. So when the locker room and the culture's is strong, I just don't feel like one injury, and I don't really care who it's to, is going to completely shatter this team's energy.
Yeah, I don't think there's any quit in this team. I wasn't worried about that. I just worry about how are you going to replace that production moving forward. That's not really something that you can fully replace. That's we're going to have to get creative here in our play calling and with our personnel. Would you be surprised at all if Brad was already on the phone trying to swing a trade?
Well, Brad Holmes usually doesn't do anything where he doesn't have some type of leverage, and I don't really see us having any leverage right now. So I think there's more teams waiting for him to call, probably, but that's just more of a Brad Holmes strategy. I don't know. Dude, we talked about it last week, Hitch. There's depth, and I know it's Aiden Hutchinson, and I know how big he is, but man, there's got to be something on this team where we can at least get a half his productivity out of two guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe I just see it as everyone seems to be like, well, there goes the defense. Secondary's playing so well. The linebackers are playing so well. The defensive tackles are playing so well. Yes, it's a heavy, heavy hit to our image, our roar, our hype train. But I'm telling you, he's not just everything for this team.
No, I agree. This team is more than just Aiden Hutchinson. All I'm saying is that I think there's two ways to look at this. We were talking about it via text during the game. You go out and you try to bring in a guy like Maxx Crosby, right? That's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it, yeah.
There's been some chatter about it. Who knows? It could just be chatter. But the Raiders are coming unglued, and you might be able to bring in a guy like Crosby, who other years would have never been available. The other way to do it is to look at who you have on your roster, maybe go into free agency, maybe restructure the 53 or 4-man roster and bring in a veteran presence, bring in an every down guy, bring in another pass rushing specialist, if you will. It's Houston's time to shine, but Houston is a situational player, right? we're looking to see if we can find and replace temporarily, at least, Aiden with an.
Let's
every
look at
down
another
type
team
guy.
that's kind of self-imploded that had a little bit of positive hype, like the Lions. Look at the Jags. Is there a player on that roster that you could see we could go after?
You mean the one that Jacksonville drafted instead of Hutchinson, maybe?
I mean, that comes to mind. I mean, I feel like the obvious answers are easy. Yeah, let's go get Max Crosby. I saw something on Twitter where he's shoving an assistant coach, and then he claims it was a celebration shove. Whatever, everything is going to get put under the microscope with this guy because not only is he literally the next number up in jersey from Aiden Hutchinson, but he's also played here at Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
Donated $1 million to the school.
He
Great
was bitter.
story.
He was bitter when the Lions didn't take him.
Yeah,
in his draft.
I could see that. But
Yep.
We talked about before, we're in the NFL storybook now, and they seem to favor us. So maybe that's a great story. We'll see. I wouldn't expect breaking news tomorrow morning to be, we've traded for Max Crosby, but under Brad Holmes, anything really seems to be possible. I just don't see that being the go-to move.
Possible, but not probable. Is the way.
How do you
that I
do?
would
Yeah,
put
there you
this.
go. It's
Yeah.
it's impulse right now, man, and that's where we're all at as Lions fans. Again, we just won in Dallas, 47-9. Haven't won
Yep.
since 2013 in Dallas, and we're on here like aliens
Like
just
somebody
invaded the country, and we're
Somebody
about to
just
go
shit
to
in
war
our
with them.
Easter basket. Yeah.
Oh, that too.
Well, let's talk about the positive then. I mean, where do you want to start? You want to start on the offense, the defense, the play calling? What do you want to talk about?
We have to go right to the defense because I think the offense set the expectation. I don't even know, maybe game 3, game 2, what they're capable of. We were a little shaky on the defense. Obviously in Seattle, right? They put up some huge points, but man, that defense, and I'm going to go right to Brian Branch because I've been calling his name. You haven't discredited it, but 2 interceptions, a forced fumble. His first interception to me, I saw it live. Watching it, I didn't have to see. I saw him literally fade away, read the quarterback's eyes, and go right over and catch the ball. And I just got done telling Jason, we've already gotten the Cowboys one-dimensional by the first half, or the first quarter, I'm sorry. In the second half, they were already one-dimensional. And we eliminated the concept of a run game. So there was no other choice. And Dak is throwing to open spots on a field. It was only a matter of time before a guy like Brian Branch is going to go do that again, and I'll be there first. And that's what we saw.
Yep. A lot of Dak throwing to the open spot, and just today it wasn't working out. Him and CD were not on the same page. CD was running an out route when he thought he was running a stop or a comeback route. They were yelling at each other. Dak just couldn't get comfortable, right? Even after Hutchinson went down, the intensity just got more, and he couldn't set his feet. He couldn't plant.
They looked like they literally had a bounty on him. I mean, it looked like someone said, go get him, and they were ready to get him, which I'm all for.
16 quarterback hurries, I think 3 or 4 sacks, and was there actually 4 or 5 turnovers, I think?
Yeah, well, there was also the one, too, that Kirby Joseph had that they called back.
Yeah. But plus the fumble recoveries.
It was getting out of control trying to keep up with the defensive stat line.
It was like a Madden game. We say it all the time, but this was the Madden game.
No, you're right. It really was the Madden game. Even coming down to the offensive play calling, which we'll get to later. But I was just super impressed at the way that Terrion Arnold really told the NFL. And we mentioned this last week that, listen, throw as many flags as you want. I'm going to figure out a way to keep playing man coverage, and I'm going to stay right on there. I saw him turn his head a lot quicker. Still has to get a lot better at watching the ball. I'd imagine, though, that give him 2 games and there's a pick six in that guy's future.
I'm very excited to see what'll happen with the ball in his hands, right?
It's big. It's big. He's took a lot of heat in the beginning, the first couple of games with the flags, but this game really showed to me that didn't phase him one bit, right? Come at me all you want, rough me up, pick on me. I get it. We talked about it too. He just wasn't it after the Vikings game next week when we see JJ that after that the caliber of wide receiver that we're going to see decreases slightly, but as far as these 6+ mega monsters that bust out like track stars, we're going to be seeing guys that we can contain a little bit more, where the pass rush doesn't have to be so dominant for Aiden Hutchinson. So maybe there is some positive too to the strength of schedule and what kind of teams we're going to be playing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm going to miss every second of him, but I'm determined to keep a little bit of positivity with this Hutchinson situation.
I'm with you. It's something that obviously we have to talk about, and we're going to talk about every week, right? But I'm with you. Not all is lost. We saw the way that they came back with the intensity. Plus, we got some pass interference calls on the first drive, I think, on Dallas's first drive. And the announcers, I can't remember if it was Brady or whatever, but they said what I've heard you say before, where they can't throw a flag on everything. And they're in good position. And the point that the broadcasters were making is Aaron Glenn knows. Aaron Glenn played cornerback at a very high level for a very long time. He knows that once they throw a sketchy flag like they did on that first drive in the first quarter, that they're not going to keep throwing those. They're going to let you play a little bit after they make a bad call like that. And it was kind of one of those things. Just come up, press, use your hands, get in place. If you get the PI, so be it. Don't maul somebody. They're going to call that. But after the first quarter, they kind of let them play a little bit.
I'd agree with that. They really did. I saw them get real handsy, and I'm sitting here jumping, waiting for them to. Oh, they're going to call it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it got to the point where I kind of lost that train of thought where I'm anticipating a flag to come out. Definitely was, I would say, overly all pleased, and I have been. And I don't want to say gotten away with talking about it because we've highlighted the linebacker core over and over, but I'm having a really hard time ignoring Jack Campbell, Hitch. You really, from a prophecy standpoint, hit it on the head with some of these players. And I'm not even going to start on the offensive side because I'm going to give you a lot of credit in a little bit on that. But Jack Campbell, man, talk about him.
Yeah, let's talk about Jack Campbell. The one thing that stood out to me more than anything was the PI against Campbell. He did commit a penalty, and that was the first glaring PI that I can remember ever really called against him. I'm not going to say that it's his first one. I don't know how many he's had, but the PI was bad. He grabbed, he held, he bear hugged. But when you see a guy of that caliber doing that, it's when they know they were beat, right? And if you're beat, you might as well tackle him anyways because you don't want to let him get free. Obviously, you can see what happens time and time again, and this game was very polarizing. You never know what's going to happen, so don't let somebody get free with a head of steam that can truck one of your teammates. Just commit the penalty, right? Other than that, I think that the run support that he was bringing to the table again today behind McNeil, they were playing him a little bit on the weak side after Hutchinson went down. He might be a guy that we can look for the sack numbers. I'm sorry, not the sack numbers, for the pass rush and the blitz numbers to increase without Hutchinson on the field. They're going to have to find some ways to bring heat off of the edge. Houston is a very situational player who I'm not even sure dressed today, honestly. But we're going to have to see them get creative. I think Campbell and Rodriguez play a big part in that. But what Jack Campbell brought to the table again today was just hellacious run support. The guy's in the right spot all the goddamn time.
Yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly. Not only is he in the right spot, but dude, how hard does this guy hit? Now,
He's a big boy. He's a real big boy.
He's a big boy, man. He is. Every time you see him make a hit, I don't know how to describe this, but every time his head is already behind the play, he's going through the player so hard that, man, I feel like after this season, the next time around of seeing Jack Campbell, guys are going to respect those numbers a little bit more. You know what I mean? And like I said, you've called it, but what we're seeing with him, this may be his end of the year story. This could be his time for him to really, I hate to say it, but he's kind of out of his rookie class. And this is no discredit to him because they're all crazy good, but he hasn't really hit the headlines, right? We've had a lot of rookies on the defensive side make big impacts, hit the stat sheet, hit the headlines, sell jerseys. He's due for that moment. And I think you're right.
I think about that, Mark, how even though he's putting up these solid numbers week in and week out, barely committing penalties, being in the right spot against the run and zone in the pass, he's not the presence on the defense that I thought he would be. And I've been thinking that since last year. And it's hard to say that when the guy is getting 12, 13 tackles a game. But he's in an awesome position where he doesn't have to be, right? Without Aiden Hutchinson, we'll see. We'll see how they use him. But he's been in this position, a fucking stellar position to be in, where you don't have to be the defensive stud and the star. Just do what they drafted him to do, be where he knows where to be, execute the way that he executes, and if all goes right, you're only hearing his name when he's making tackles, right? We don't hear his name for bad penalties. We don't hear his name for dumb shit. He just hasn't had to be the all-star, but I think he can be the all-star.
You're right. And I think you mentioned Rodrigo. He had a real big contribution. Really, every time I think they've called his number, he's given us no reason to doubt that he's going to make some type of contribution. So I think we're going to see a little bit more in him. I wouldn't expect too much. Anzalone is a no-doubter. I'll forever be wrong. I'm with Bone on that one.
Oh, yeah, he won't let you forget either.
I know, that's why I bring it up all the time, so he just kind of takes it easy. But very, very sadistic in his ways. We've got we had some healthy play too from a lot of guys on the defensive line, kind of walking down the chart. Alim McNeill, 2 sacks, I believe. May even had a half here and there, but his presence is completely felt. He clotheslined Dak Prescott. I can't tell you how much I enjoy Alim McNeill. He also wears Jason's number 54, which you don't see a lot of guys wear 54 in that position historically. R.I.P. DeAndre Levy's brain. I just kind of I saw Charles Harris, I believe it was, his face when Hutch went down, and it was just fuck. So from an edge standpoint, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really see a lot of guys that really stood out to me. I thought the middle of our line.
Pascal had a good game today. Kind of quiet.
He had a good game, yeah.
Had a good game.
Yeah, and I guess that could have been overshadowed too by the turnovers of Brian Branch, and you know, it was. You kind of stopped looking for players at that point because everybody was just playing at a high level, right? That energy was just untouchable. So I didn't really see anything from the defense that said, "Holy crap, that has to get addressed," right? If we don't do that, hit the button. So I'm not too concerned.
Reeder looks good today. Reeder and McNeill together are just unbelievable, man.
And that's maybe a quiet story that we need to start watching a little bit more, or maybe writing a little bit better, because giving them some credit, I think they look real good. And how nice is it from a guy like DJ Reeder's standpoint, where you're the premier free agent signing and you're going to get all the love and respect. You're going to get the money. You're going to get the welcoming, but there's no stress on you, man. You know what I mean? You're walking into a locker room where you're just like, oh, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. You're all the top dogs. This is great.
Right.
I can just be me, do my job, and I don't have to lean heavy on PR, and I don't have to be the face. I mean, D tackles typically don't like to do a lot of PR. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I feel like this is a great team for him to be in, and we're seeing the benefit of that, right? You coined that term last year. I'm starting to think that the beneficiary extends just from Hutch's pass rush and presence on the line. I think it started with his presence on the team. Carve that culture out, and it's so ingrained now in this locker room that you're probably going to see all the guys after every game sign a game ball and give it to him. You're going to see him when he can be back on the sidelines.
Let me say this, and then we'll transition. I think it would be dope as fuck if everybody on the defense wore the one streak of eye black next week.
I think it would be dope as fuck if every fan inside Ford Field wore it.
There you go. There you go. Just to show some reverence and some respect and some good energy. That would be sick.
Maybe I'll wear it to work all week.
There you go. Like William fucking Wallace in the plan.
Why not? In solidarity, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So no, that's a good point. What you're saying is expect something unique and uniting to come out of this bad situation. I think
so.
Guys like Dan Campbell and guys like everybody in that locker room, I'll save us all 53 names plus the coaching staff. This just makes them all want to work out that much harder, right? Study film that much harder. I'm sure this plane ride home is super cerebral, right? 47-9, and they're still going home, probably sitting there with their playbook tablet things, just going through film, going, yep. Like, they just seem so robotic right now, man.
It's always a quiet ride, I would imagine, when you're coming home one man less. You know, Hutch is probably in surgery right now. And like we started this out by saying, there's a whole lot to be happy about here, but we can't ignore the obvious.
Well, let's go over to the obvious of Carlton Davis III being an excellent pickup. He has been handsy. I think that's also been he's getting lumped in with a group of rookies, and they're testing his veteran gangster. But my God, man, even when he got knocked down, his helmet gets ripped off, someone kicks him in the head. He's back in the next play making a huge pass breakup. This guy seems to be like a quiet killer. There's no bark with him, right? It's all bite. He just takes care of it. Can't say better things about him. Your boy Robertson, who they have in the nickel position right now.
He stepped up big today.
Huge tackling. Liking what I see out of him. Haven't really seen much more out of him outside of some nice big key tackles. Terrion Arnold, I'm a huge fan of. There's no surprise there. Kendall Vildor, I saw him hit the field a little bit once the score was super blowout mode.
Yeah, they went right at him too, but Dak just couldn't get the ball in. They went right at him twice.
Big fan of him. And then, my God, Hitch, Kirby Joseph.
Jesus Christ.
Continues to just be almost a cyborg. I don't really think he's full human, but he plays like a cyborg, dude. He just...
Ball-seeking robot.
There you go, ball-seeking robot. I wonder if we can get an image created.
Trademark that.
For a ball-seeking robot. Yeah, trademark that too. They're again playing at a higher level than I honestly anticipated too. So let's just... I don't know. What's your take? I just kind of quickly ran through the roster. You tell me.
Yeah, we were both very high on and very excited. I think I've said it a few times that I always felt, even with Hutchinson healthy and on the field, that the strength of this defense, or what they're scheming for, besides for that pressure, is coming down from the top. It's these safeties on the back end of this defense. There isn't one glaring weak spot on this defense for the first time in a very, very long time. But these safeties,
can you almost say ever?
Almost ever. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're getting to that point.
I'd have to go real far back to think about a defense this complete.
let's just say in our lifetime, Hitch, because I don't want to get into the 50s and 60s, 70s.
We were close with Schwartz and what we had going with Ndamukong Suh and Louis Delmas. And we were
Kyle
close.
Vanden Bosch.
Yeah, for real. We were close. But this is a complete defense. I'm glad that they gave Aaron Glenn time to get some personnel in here because it wasn't that long ago. We were all calling for his head.
Well, I think the last time we were close was 2013 when we beat him, but we beat him by 1 point. Now we beat him by
40.
Exactly. So, and I brought this up to Jason. I said, hey, that's the last time it was kind of worth getting excited watching the Lions was 2013, right? He's born in 2011.
Oh, wow.
So I go to him, dude, it's crazy to think that I got so excited about that team. You say we're close. I don't think we were close back then. I really think that in our eyes, we were close, but outside the NFL still probably wasn't giving us the love and respect where they're going, yeah, you're having a little fun, but this ain't close, brother.
Yeah. We weren't anywhere near ready on the offense. We had glaring holes on both sides of the ball. 13 was fun. I firmly believe that Schwartz should have gotten another year. It could have been a lot different around here, but this regime, we just keep talking about it every week, 6 or 7 episodes in a row now, and going back a few years of doing this regime is just doing everything right. They're doing
that goes,
everything.
Hey, let's credit Sheila because you're right. Schwartz deserved more time. Caldwell deserved more time. The whole world said it since I can remember that the Fords were bad owners.
Yep.
And I don't want to say the Ford family because Sheila is a Ford, but William Clay especially was a bad owner. And then his wife is just kind of a bridge the gap. And we saw that with Caldwell. But then, dude, the whole Patricia thing. Dude, fuck him. That was so gross. He's so fat. He's so stupid. He's such a bad coach.
I was worried that he set this organization back, and he did, without a doubt, set them back. But the way that the right hires were made, people that could evaluate talent, attract free agents, people that knew what they were doing, got a hold of this finally, and Patricia set us back. Quintricia set us back, but we have made leaps and bounds of recovery and just put ground behind us or between us. That is a thing of the past. We're the franchise to emulate right now.
Well, Quintricia set us back because I feel like they really had the false sense of pride. Like they took too much ownership of the New England Patriots' success. And I'm sure it wasn't just all self-generated. I'm sure a lot of people were saying, oh my God, dude, look what you're doing. And obviously Bill's just sitting there going,
okay,
exactly. So we're not the only team that put our faith in the Patriot way. Josh McDaniels got how many franchise opportunities? I'm sure contracts are still getting paid to him through that shit. So that was kind of a trend in the NFL was let's panic and start copying. But again, look at who the owner was during that. It was a 98-year-old lady that was hijacked and trying to do the right thing.
You're going to see teams that you're already seeing teams stealing plays out of our playbook week in and week out. And you're going to see more. You're going to see some of this flea flicker shit next week, if not tomorrow night. But they're just doing it right. And I'm not saying that any franchise is going to try to emulate us like the Patriots because we're, 6 Super Bowls behind where the Patriots got to. But it's something to behold, and teams are going to start trying to build the way that we're building. Just like you're going to see baseball teams next year trying to do what AJ Hinch did with his bullpen, right?
Let's look at this though. Ownership is going to be key. So and I know we're kind of getting off topic. No, we're on topic. Fuck it. Let's look at the game tonight. Sheila Hamp comes in, same family, and overhauls an entire culture. Jerry Jones last week landed his private helicopter in the middle of practice. His team didn't look prepared. You know what I mean? Like, some of these owners too are going to have to get out of their own way if they want to emulate success. Robert Kraft struck gold on Bill Belichick once. Robert Kraft looks terrible once, right? You can strike gold like that once, but there was no formula for, I think, Robert Kraft's Patriot way. It was you brought in Bill Belichick at the right time, and you got lucky with Tom Brady, and then it worked. So this one was Sheila Hamp Ford doing the same thing, saying, go get me the best of the best, right? And if you're an owner like Jerry Jones, are you really going to say, go get me anything? He's going to bring you what he wants. He's going to tell you who he wants, and he's going to overpay for who he wants. And he's going to improperly assess the quarterback market and then sign Dak Prescott 2 years too late. You know what I mean? Could have signed him before.
Well, and you get my point. The fact that he didn't address the Mike McCarthy situation last year, and I know they won a lot of games last year, but who was the one that told Jerry, or I'm sure Jerry had a hand in it, but who told him this team was ready to win and compete? Not just to win, but to win the NFC North. Or I'm sorry, the NFC.
ESPN.
You don't have any running backs. You got Rico Dowdle, who flashes when the game script is right. Elliott looks like he's just finally pushed himself over one Oreo too many. And then all you have is CD. They can't get the ball to Ferguson. We took CD out of the game, and Dak looked lost. You have a pretty good offensive line there. I understand that, but even without Hutchinson, the pressure that we were getting on them, getting to Dak, how many times did Dak just get blown out as he was throwing? This could have been another game where if the cards fell right, we could have had 8 sacks. If Hutchinson stayed on this field, we wouldn't have had 5 or 6. Or 4. We would have had 6 or 7. Whoever told Jerry that this team was ready to win should lose their job tomorrow. And if that's Mike McCarthy, then so be it.
No, Hitch, I'll tell you exactly. It's the same person who tells Jerry everything. It's Jerry. Jerry tells Jerry this team can win. Look at the guy.
Time. It worked for Jerry for a long time, but it hasn't worked in a long time, right?
And that is another historical moment I covered with Jason was the success of the Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith Dallas Cowboys and how long ago that's been. Good God, my man. That's been eons ago, right? Like, I just don't get why anyone is shocked at some of these egotistical owners that can't put their bullshit out of their own way. Now, there's a common theme, though, with
2 years ago, it was Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken, and it was by the
Pittsburgh.
Steelers. I think 20th or 21st overall, and that was the first time that you had your first quarterback taken that low in the first round in like 15 years or something. And I should say obviously, but I think my opinion is it's the Great White Hope, right? Or the Great Hope. It's turning into the Great Hype. But if you wanted to turn your franchise around, you had to draft a quarterback. And the ups or the risky side of that is you have to hit with that, right? You absolutely have to hit with that. And you look at the teams that did, you look at the teams that didn't, it's very obvious who the good and the bad teams are, right? Very rarely do you get a guy with a resurgence like Baker Mayfield who went to how many teams before he started playing well with Tampa? Did he go to 4 other teams, I think? It's a way to put your rebuild into hyperdrive, but you absolutely have to hit. And when that happens, and now you couple in this rookie wage scale and the years of control, that in and of itself takes away and mitigates a little bit of the risk where you absolutely have to hit. But teams are still, I should say owners are still living in this world where a quarterback is the only way that you can start a rebuild, where in actuality, the quarterback is becoming the last piece of the puzzle. You do something like Detroit did, and obviously we got real lucky with Jared Goff. And I think that Brad knew what he was getting in Jared Goff.
I don't think that was luck. I'll stop you right there. I'm telling you that was strategy. Brad Holmes came from that organization. He saw an opportunity to have a conversation on vacation as well, I'm sure, with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and say, guys, I think for once in the history of the United States, we can do something where it mutually benefits both parties and we're not trying to fuck over someone.
Right. It just worked.
It worked. Some of these owners that are pretty creepy, right? Like they're of a certain age group. They're of a certain financial status. I mean, Sheila Hamm-Ford is in the scope of it, super young by ownership standpoint. She's a woman. She's not an analytical football genius. She's just someone who wants to win. She wants good quality branding for her team. And you've got most of these owners right now, unfortunately, in the NFL that can't get out of their own fucking way, dude. Yep. And we're going to see that over and over again, where that archaic 1980s, 1990s, good old boy club shit, dude, it's done across the board. Give it up.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because the football league in and of itself is, I mean, I hate to say it because I love it so much, but it's not as fun to watch as it used to be. Our Detroit Lions are. There's a couple teams out there that are fun, but the quarterback play this year is terrible. Defenses are terrible. The disparity is gigantic. I hope you're right. I hope that what the Lions are doing here is that looking back on this is the beginning of a shift.
Because it has to be, because, you know, if you look at it, I think what we're seeing is the long-term effects of the RPO without any draft strategy changes and out changes of expectations, right? So you had this big gap of pocket passing, big arm quarterbacks to kind of shade us for the Urban Meyer style invasion of the RPO to college football. And it was pretty easy to take some of these guys and transition them, but a lot of these quarterbacks are sticking to it. So you've got your Jalen Daniels, but just as many of those, like, what was it, last year or 2 years ago? It was like the worst quarterback draft ever. But
oh, God. Did you see in London this morning that Mac Jones came in to play quarterback for the Jaguars? He replaced Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Now, they were drafted in the same draft, and Trevor Lawrence is the only one still on his pro team.
And this is a thing that if you talk to Dolan, I've been banging this conspiracy train of, I swear to God, every draft, there is X amount of quarterbacks that have to be taken in the first round just because. I'm sure there used to be some ties to, you know, quarterbacks are sexy position of the 90s and they're the franchise, but like, holy shit, man, look at these back-to-back-to-back drafts where it's like, this is unacceptable. Yep. How are you drafting these players over and over again and missing the ball on quarterbacks? How does Deshaun Watson get a contract like he does in Cleveland? Like, what is going on? Are these owners just falling in love with these players? Like, from a emotional standpoint, are they literally falling in love with these players? And let's just start right there. Yes, this is the new dawn of the NFL, where the Lions are the model because they did something where they didn't overthink it. They didn't try screwing somebody over. They made a logical, balanced trade, and they didn't do anything out of impulse.
The risk that they took on was the money. It was the money.
Which is made up in the NFL.
Well, kind of, in a sense. They always say, the cap is a social construct. But it had to work.
When you're handing out $30 million a year, it's made up fucking money. I'm sorry. But yeah, go ahead.
It had to work only in the sense where if you take on that much salary cap and you saddle yourself with that contract, if it doesn't work, it would have set us back. I know we joke about the cap being fun money, but if that didn't work, being saddled with that contract would have set us back.
Let's see something else, too, that Brad Holmes did. I'm just sitting here thinking, as you inspire me always to do. So thank you for that. Yeah. Nobody makes trades interdivision. The TJ Hawkinson thing's going to blow up in your face. TJ who?
Right.
What's a Hawkinson?
Right. TJ's been injury prone his whole career. TJ is a good athlete for sure. You know, I was a little nervous when we let him go, like you said, to the Vikings. But TJ who?
And the whole thing on that was everybody, their only negative on that trade was, well, you traded him interdivision, and that's an unwritten rule. It seems like all these unwritten rules are unwritten for a reason, because technically I think it's the key to success. I think you're right. The key to solving the puzzle is if they tell you have to get a quarterback in the first round, find a way not to do that. Because that's what all these successful teams are doing, and I can't stand it. And I'm starting to think I hate Kirk Cousins because the NFL hates Kirk Cousins in a sense.
The NFL wants you to hate Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, they do. But doesn't matter what that guy's getting paid wherever he goes and keeps lighting it up.
Yep.
So free Bryce Young is what I'm trying to say, because that poor soul is trapped into. Dude, I think the Carolina Panthers, and I said this a couple weeks ago, they need to be done. They just lose their franchise. Get them out of Carolina. Nope, you can't have Panthers in the NFL anymore. That's the new rule. No Panthers. Get them out. Bye. Put the team where they're putting every team in fucking Vegas, because I know they want to put a team in Vegas and apparently in New Mexico, overseas somewhere too. So, yeah,
Canada,
take the Carolina Panthers and set it up in the Ukraine, and I'm good, because I want that team out of here. That owner is a piece of shit. You want to talk about bad owners? He's going to ruin.
Sucks,
and
man.
I don't really care about the Panthers, but while we're on the topic of bad owners, you got me going.
I think the cake is won by that Shad. What's his name? Shad something. The Jaguars owner.
Oh yeah, Khan.
Shad Khan or whatever.
Yeah.
He's
well,
terrible.
Dude, they just keep making dumb move after dumb move. And, I saw something about, of course, everybody, now that the Jaguars suck, they're going to melt it down and bring in Belichick. And it's like, have we not learned? Get these guys out of here. Yeah. Stop trying to pass the buck to somebody who constantly doesn't give a shit. Like, Belichick's over. Move on. Give it to some young, like what Seattle did, man. I just love when these young coaches get an opportunity to get stepped up. And look at Ben Johnson going, I'm not going to Carolina. It's not about money anymore, Hitch, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you. The money's made up in the NFL. The money's so good and so big that everybody's making enough money to where you don't really have to start nickel and diamond everything, dude. Look what they did with Montgomery. They extended him. They didn't need to.
I love that extension. Lock it down.
Because it's not about money anymore. It's about long-term stability. These players want to know that they've got guaranteed stability money, and they're going to be treated with respect on these teams. Because these big contracts that look great on the headlines, when it really comes down to it, these teams are screwing them over when they get hurt. They've got the eject when things get bad button. So you look at guys like Aaron Rodgers, and as much as I've hated the Packers, hated how good he was, hate the Jets, I kind of like how he's sticking it to the NFL right now, and same with Davante Adams, where they're just kind of saying, fuck you, in general, right? Like, I told you to get rid of this coach. Now I'm going to teach you a lesson. Davante Adams.
Don't you love what Crosby and Adams are doing together? I mean, they're not to this point where they're benching Crosby, but Crosby has publicly said, wherever Adam goes, I go. So they're
unified
themselves up. Yeah.
They're
unified.
And I think that's where we're headed with this. I think that's where we're going to start seeing in the NFL a little bit more, less of like the plantation style mentality of, we play for the owners, and these owners are just, I'm telling you, they're going to all end up in Europe real soon. They're going to have to find somewhere where they can't be extradited. A lot of them will. And I just,
Polanski.
There you go. I hear he's got a lot of room. And he's
real
seems to have a pretty great temper and everything.
Nice guy.
Yeah, good guy. Hell of a pool player, that Polanski. But there's definitely a culture change in the NFL for the good. And I think it starts with the some of these teams really having to eat their shit on these quarterbacks, right? And while we're sitting here with Jared Goff going, hey, guys, we tried to tell you. So let's talk about that offense, because every player on that offense played a fantastic game today, starting with JG Money, played fantastic.
18 of 25. Last week, 18
which
of
is
18.
But outside of 18 of 18, that's a near perfect game, right?
Yeah.
J-Mo had
his
that one
rating-
drop ball.
Yeah, the 153.8. I think that technically is a perfect quarterback rating.
It is.
Yeah.
So he has a perfect quarterback rating. There's not much to really pick apart about Goff. We love Goff.
Is Jared, when they have to make a decision about Jared, and we saw a little bit ahead today, but
I knew you were going to do this.
When we have to make a decision about Jared, are they going to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league?
That's irrelevant.
Just curious.
Every quarterback will be the highest paid quarterback at some point with these guys, right?
Are we going to be in a position where we are ready and wanting to pay Goff $200 million a year?
How much longer do we have on the contract?
2 years, I think.
2 years. He's 29. They'll extend him, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
Is he really only 29?
He's 29.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's not why you're trying to bait me on my Hendon Hooker comment on draft night.
No, my tide has shifted on Hendon. I eat my words, but you were right. You were right. I eat my words, but I just don't think.
I don't want you to eat your words. I just want you to love it. I want you to love where this is going with Hendon Hooker.
No, it's trending to be a great problem.
Trending Hooker.
Right? Trending Hooker. You know, when he came into the game today, I texted my friends and I said, time to let Hendon hook.
Hook on, right? Baby.
Right?
Hook on. And I think he'll sit for 3 years. That's your best situation. Really. I think you're gonna really like the way you look.
Would you be in a spot where if everything fell into position where you would be okay with Hendon being part of a trade?
I knew that was coming too. I knew it was coming. Yeah, well, I knew it was coming. I say that Brad's always going to sell high, and he's always going to take something that he got from another team, trade it to another team to get a bigger asset. So the bigger question is, what pick did we use to get with Hendon Hooker? I should have just started right there.
If we were to,
when we drafted him, what pick did we use? Do you remember?
Third round pick from the Vikings that we got for Hockenson, right?
So then, yes, he is on the table, 100%.
Okay, all right.
Oh, that'd be very Brad Holmes like. And it would also be very Brad Holmes like with whatever we got back in a compensation, even if it was a 7th round pick. That 7th round pick would be a critical success into getting another player he wanted.
I feel like everything Brad does is just the next Brad thing.
It's the same thing, though.
If Brad goes against his own playbook here and trades 2 first-round picks for Crosby and Adams, it'll be the next
I don't think
Brad
he
thing.
has to, though.
I don't think he has to either.
You're not going to get both those guys together. They're staying in unity to get themselves out of there in the right situation. But you get Crosby, you're getting him at a time where he wants out and you need somebody. And the Raiders are a stupid organization to deal with.
Yeah.
So you're right. They need a quarterback. Do they love Hendon Hooker that much? I don't know if his stock is high enough to sell him to a team that needs a quarterback, but he's on the table. That's for sure. He's not off the table.
If you were a Raiders fan, you would be upset that you lost potentially Adams and Crosby, but it's going to look like something like a player to start immediately and 2 first-round picks. That makes it a much easier pill to swallow, doesn't it?
Think about this pill to swallow. You've been relocated how many times in how many different states as a Raiders fan? Do they even have a fucking identity anymore? A fan base? I know they do on TV and their logo is like consistent with the NFL, but like most of their fan base is heavily based off of like West Coast kind of hip hop theme, right? Like the Raiders are associated with the NWA and hard-nosed, mean street life. Dude, they're in Vegas.
Yeah.
What's hard-nosed about Vegas?
Nothing, man.
It's a completely floating, made-up town on dust.
Now, if they would have built that spaceship-looking stadium in the middle of old Vegas, that would have been fun.
In Area 51.
Yeah.
Deming, New Mexico. I mean,
Right.
really, I just don't see a fan base like that where you're not trading with like the Colts, a fan base that no matter what sticks with it because if you're just not trading with the fan base anymore. You're not trading with the old L. Davis Raiders. Right. They've since moved multiple times. So again, if you want to know what Brad Holmes does is just there are certain things that are on the table and certain things that are off the table. And he doesn't force it.
Brad's not going to get fleeced. If this trade happens, we might have to give up a lot. Or if any trade happens for an every down edge rusher, we're going to give up more than Brad has ever given up. But all I'm trying to say is I have faith in Brad. That's what I mean by the next thing Brad does becomes
and Brad we trust.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let Brad be Brad. Brad on.
If Brad goes outside of his box here, it's because this is the first time in his tenure that he felt the need to do so, right?
So you want Brad to stay inside his box, and you like Brad's box. You're big on Brad's box.
It's a nice manicured box.
It's a great box. Okay.
It's a great box.
Good.
So
giving me ideas for shorts.
Right.
No, I think, this is the fun thing, Hitch, about where we're at as a culture and where we're at as fans. Each week this show has turned into a little bit something different. And I think we're now, even as a fan base, getting to the point where we don't have to literally break down every step of the game. We don't have to say J-Mo had an awesome game because now J-Mo's in a position to do J-Mo stuff he did in Alabama.
Yep.
We just expect that every week. The bar has been set to where you and I now can talk a little bit about, highbrow theory of what they're doing in the locker room behind the scenes.
Sure. No, and that's a great spot to be because there was a lot of highlight reel shit that happened this week. And we're almost to an hour, and we didn't talk about the national bloodletting of Seattle and the acrobatics of Jared Goff and the arm of Amon-Ra St. Brown and the absolute truck stick that is Montgomery. But everyone in the country has seen it, and we're gonna see these highlights for the rest of our lives because what's happened in the last.
I was gonna say, dude,
a riot.
I'm watching the Montgomery highlights, and I'll pull it up right now. But you've got him running through. I lost count how many times he just kept running through everything. So yeah, you don't even have to go in depth on every game now because what you saw in Seattle, if you missed it, you saw a better version in Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are two games where I honestly did not think we were going to be able to do that.
You asked
historically they've just.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You asked me a couple weeks ago about what I needed to see to feel real good about this team. And I said, there will come a day where the passing game is clicking, the running game is clicking, and the defense is clicking. And you said, is it going to be Seattle? And I said, maybe not. I would love it to be. And it turned out to be one of the most entertaining games I've ever watched as a Lions fan. But then you said it. They turned around and they did it again this week. And this was the week where everything clicked.
You finally let your hair down. That's why. You let your hair down.
Right.
And it's all just flowing now, man. That's what we've been waiting for. The second coming of Hitch or Jay Scarcella.
Well, if they do this,
it's awesome, dude. It's a great feeling. If they do this
again to the Vikings, I'm going to come in just headbanging, dude.
Come in a white robe floating, and then we'll bow down to the Almighty. Yeah, dude. No, you called it. I have to say it just because I'm elevating you up right now. But Tim Patrick, dude.
Oh, baby.
Shame on me, Hitch, for not having him on my radar more because he looks. I thought we were bringing in a little thicker, slower wide receiver, but maybe 17. Maybe I just don't like the number. I'm thrown off by it. But what a catch, man. Thank you for telling Brad Holmes to go get him because I'm real happy is what I'm trying to say with Tim Patrick.
It's too early to say this, and I'm not going to go overboard with my enthusiasm for Tim Patrick, but at this stage of the game and in games like this where they're going to him on these long third downs over the middle, he's part of what this offense was missing last year. Hard to say that when you have this two-headed monster in Montgomery and Gibbs that are just the identity of this team and setting the tone along with this offensive line. But Tim Patrick, talk about elevating. Nothing against Reynolds, who's already scored a couple touchdowns in Denver. We kind of did this whole flip-flop wide receiver for wide receiver, essentially. He's an upgrade. He's an upgrade. He's, I think, at this point in time, the third receiver that we were looking for. We didn't know that we had. He's an upgrade, and he's solid hands, and he's fast. He's, knock on wood, able to stay healthy thus far. He's had an injury-plagued career, but he might be a little bit of the missing link. He's helping fill a void that we couldn't quite fill last year.
He's definitely gotten to the point where I look down and I look up again, and Jamal's already in the end zone. Like, this guy's nuts, man. This is the benefit of Tim Patrick. This is what we've been wanting to see out of number 9. That dude, Jamo, looks so comfortable. Like, I feel like after every game, and I don't know this, maybe this was one time and they keep reposting it, but he was down on 6 Mile at Coney Island after one of the games. Like, dude, that guy has literally let his shoulders down. He came here so uncomfortable, so nervous, so shy that everybody took it for like disdain. But I think he was just really nervous. I really think he was just used to playing in Alabama where, like, as big of a stage it is, you kind of blend in. I mean, you're just one of the mega stars that are in a big row of craziness. And then a town like Detroit, as soon as you get off that plane, the expectations are, who was saying it? Playing in Detroit, the like they even though they have kind of they were trying to say a nice word of rich history of losing, their expectations and their passion for football is unknown, right? It's kind of, he had the fear of the unknown, and now I'm starting to see with him on the sidelines smiling, him busting off.
Yep. And it's gonna be something special. We witnessed it, and we talked about it a few times already. The press conference after the home opener, he just sounded like a different person. He looks like a different person. He's carrying himself like a different person. He's getting all those snaps. It's just unreal.
No, I'm super happy with it. So, hey, we got Minnesota coming up this week. Kind of the same thing, man. This is a big game, though, because this is divisional. First divisional game, too, right?
Yep.
So, we have crazy momentum coming off this game. Obviously, the Hutch stuff, which I'm going to try my best to just kind of side that conversation until we know what's going on with him. But aside Hutchinson, we have nothing to be shameful about going into this game for Minnesota because, dude, when you come off a bye week like that and you go in Dallas 4:00 and stomp their freaking brains out, Minnesota, I don't care what mojo they got going on. They've got to be scared, dude. They're due for a loss, Hitch.
Minnesota has mojo, man. And even after seeing what I just saw us do to Seattle and then turn right around and do it to Dallas, it's not we say this all the time. It's becoming kind of cliche. None of these games should be taken lightly. In this league, anybody can win at any given time. But what Minnesota has done in the first few weeks of this season gives me much more concern than Minnesota did in the preseason, than anything that they put together in the offseason. I was not worried at all about Minnesota. Having Minnesota in this division, I thought was kind of like playing Larson in fantasy football, right? I thought it was your 2 free wins a year. But, I mean, talk about a resurgence of a quarterback. We were joking around about Baker and Goff, but Sam Darnold playing at this MVP caliber level. I think that the Lions are poised to beat any team they play, to really beat the pants off of any team that they play. But I'm not taking this game as lightly as I once was.
I'll never take the Vikings lightly. I I've kind of put this rule, dude, if it's a divisional game against a divisional opponent, I just don't care. You can't take those games lightly. I think their coach has still a high pedigree. I respect his ability to craft and call a game. I think what we see in Sam Darnold is what we're going to see year over year. The guy can't do this for the full year. That's always been the knock on him because that's who he is as a quarterback. So just like we saw with the Vikings last year, when it came to the second half of the season, they were on quarterback carousel of Josh Dobbs and whatever names they were giving these guys, and they were literally just trying to plug everybody in. Because you're right, the quarterback seems to almost be that last missing piece. But their defense is super hard to play against. I don't think we're going to be just shelling out 428 yards of offense. I think that is a game where we're going to go in hard on the running game. I think we're going to pound the ball in their fucking chest. We didn't really have to commit so much to the running game in Dallas because Dallas kind of laid down. Seattle, we had to commit to the running game. Arizona, my God, did we commit to the running game? I think you're going to see something between Seattle and Arizona more for Minnesota. It's going to be more of my style game of like a 21-17 thing.
Okay. As great as this offense has been, especially for the last 2 weeks, I still find myself sitting on the couch, twiddling my thumbs a little bit, waiting for our defense to get back on the field. And I think even without Hutch, they're just so fun to watch, man. And if you get Brian Branch doing the Brian Branch thing, and you get Joseph back there doing the Joseph thing, and we look to see who steps up to fill these Hutchinson shoes, albeit temporarily, hopefully. It's hopefully just going to be a good, fun game to watch. This team has been fun to watch, man.
Well, the Vikings are 5-0, and they just went overseas. I overlooked this whole thing. They just went overseas to play the Jets, which, again, aren't a real football team. So Sam Darnold wins 14 out of 31, 179 yards and an interception. So they're winning clearly with the defense. They're not winning with Sam Darnold. He just so happens to be the quarterback because Nick Mullins came in for one play. But even rushing, they're 30 yards, Ty Chandler, right? Obviously, Jefferson, 92 yards. He's an obvious target, a threat. Right. Sure. But we highlighted our corners are capable of putting a game plan together to limit him down. So we'll see, man. I don't want to beat the hammer too hard in the Vikings game because, like we said, there's going to just be a lot more to talk about after these games. So Absolutely. Before we wrap this up, did you want to say anything else?
I don't think so, man. This is one of those weeks where I feel like we could just keep talking and talking and talking. We got a good flow going. We got a lot to be happy about. But coming out of a bye as strong as we did, working both ends of that offense as hard as we did, I'm looking forward to whoever we play next. And I think whoever we play next should be very afraid.
Agree. I guess my closing statements will be the same. I really enjoy doing this after the game, so maybe we need to start doing this because, man, taking those raw emotions after the game and putting it down is seems to be pretty productive. But
this is fun.
I enjoyed watching the game. I have nothing but high expectations moving forward. I think we're going to start to see some of Khalif Raymond. I'm going to call that right now. I started to see him get into the game plan a little bit more, but looking forward to some of these guys, man, just really being in a good position to step up and say, hey, don't forget about me. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. The competition to get those game balls. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Everybody that listens, like and subscribe, please. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you don't like. It really doesn't matter. We're just trying to generate a little buzz and have fun with this. So everybody that has been texting me during the games and, giving us feedback, again, we appreciate it. And I'm Mark, and that's Hitch, and have a good night. Peace.